What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. I am Johnny Monoxide. Tonight, I'm joined by Adam Haidt, Bradshaw Wilson, and our returning guest, Zev. What's up, guys?
Howdy.
Hey.
Not much.
All right. Well, Scott's not with us tonight, and Death is not with us tonight, so it's all right. We'll make it through.
Is this the first episode Scott's missed since he became a member of the show? I feel like he's been on every single episode now.
I feel like
there's probably been one or two.
I think he might have missed one. I'm not 100% sure. We can go back and check, but yeah. Scott's attendance is pretty superlative. We're going to miss him. His whatever. F. Yeah, no, he'll be back. It's not like he's
going to come back when we perform a seance.
Yeah, right?
He's busy fighting demons.
Scott's fucking dead, dude. I don't know. Johnny's too much of a bitch to like break the news to the fans that Scott fucking died.
Oh, did you just call me a bitch? Am I going to have to kick you out of this call? All right. So, yeah, we're back. Last week we did, we had the Asian, Hungry Ghost Festival, which was pretty cool. We got some interesting, comments on the YouTubes and on the, in the comments section there. We got a couple of emails this week. I know you guys don't like, the listeners don't always like when we do the emails at the beginning, but I have one that's quick. From United Shitlords, says, most of the people who emailed you last week were massive faggots. Your new theme song is lit. Coral Castle when? Right on, dude. Yeah, last week was a lot of the, we got called the Paranormies. Somebody else said we weren't prepared. And somebody else hated our new theme song. Well, that's too bad, because that's the new theme music for this season.
What an asshole.
I know, it's Fash Wave, dude. I mean, like, come on.
I don't appreciate the opinions of peasants.
I love
We're rolling on.
Dude, the last episode was really interesting because it's like something I had never heard of. Like, I didn't know anything about, the sort of spirits in this part of the world.
Yeah, to have it from such a primary source is good too.
Yeah,
that's another thing too. Yeah,
in the thick of things.
I think we got probably a lot of stuff today that a lot of people haven't heard of too.
That's right. One more quick one. From Jared says, could you do a brief segment on the Judica Cordelia brothers? I have no idea who that is. I will look it up. It says, it looks like on the surface they might have been fraudsters, but if there's any truth to their claims, I'm sure you guys can figure it out. Danke. All right. Well, another one of our fans has faith in us to do the research. So, Judica Cordelia brothers. Judica Cordelia. So, if anybody knows anything about that, let me know. I mean, like, hey, we'll look into it. If it's long enough to do an episode on it, we'll do an episode. If not, maybe we'll just talk about it for a minute or two. One more real quick one from Unpoetic Anon says, I love your podcast. I have a few suggestions. Could you guys do some shows on more obscure paranormal conspiracy topics, such as targeted individuals, Project Monarch, prehistory Europeans, reptilians, etc.? Thanks.
Prehistory Europeans would be really good.
Yeah, I really wish that if we were going to do prehistoric, like that kind of stuff, there was a guy who'd been on our show a couple times in the past, Mr. Atlantic Centurion. He's a big guy in that field. Maybe we can coerce him into...
I'd like to see you guys talk about Soltrians, personally. Like
Soltrians?
Yeah, I don't know that that's a paranormal, supernatural sort of thing as it is an historical type deal, but it's definitely
it's sort of it's not really completely confirmed, so that's why I think it kind of falls into your wheelhouse.
Okay.
I mean, there had to be some kind of Europeans here because they found ironworking sites in North and South America that were like, nobody on North and South America that are so-called natives had ironworking.
No, none of the noble savages.
Actually, I believe the Tarascans in southwest Mexico did have metalworking. I think iron they were starting to get into when the Spaniards arrived.
Okay, so they were.
So I didn't mean to counter signal you. I just
no. That's fine. That's something that was a point nobody knew. That's a good one though. The Tarascans, is that what you said?
Yeah, Tarascans, present-day Michoacan in southwest Mexico.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. But like for the most part, there was no metalworking done in North and South America until, as far as we know, until it was settled by the Europeans. But yeah, Adam, you're saying the Solutreans were known for that, didn't they? They came from, what was it, France? The French?
Well, I don't know the Solutreans specifically, but just in terms of the ancient, proto-white Indo-Aryan peoples, they were pretty well-traveled people.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's something we can definitely get into. That's a good. I mean, I want to do ancient civilization stuff too. I mean, we don't just limit ourselves to paranormal and ghosts and conspiratorial 9/11 type shit. We'll expand our horizons.
Since we were mentioning Native Americans, I kind of want to do a follow up to something I said in a previous show, where I had my own paranormal experience while in a cabin up in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Where I saw a brooding figure in a doorway, and I heard whispers throughout the night that clearly weren't in English, but I had no idea what they were saying.
It wasn't your
one
mom,
thing I found
just mad at you for something.
One thing I found out when I was it's been like years since that's happened, but I actually went to a similar cabin, not in the same spot, with Patty Tarleton and a buddy of ours, and we went, we roughed it in the cabin for the night. And I told him about my experience, and he told me that the land where that cabin used to be Abenaki land, like the Abenaki Native Americans, and that almost really kind of clicked in my head, because that makes sense why I saw this figure and why these ghosts, so-called, weren't speaking English, because they were probably speaking whatever the Abenaki spoke.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this dead area, there was a lot of different tribes living there that fought during the French and Indian War.
Okay. Well, you got to remember that there was a lot of, slaughtering of Indians by Indians. So, there could have been any number of ways that it could have died there. But yeah, that's
true.
That's
but you gotta remember, we're better at slaughtering Indians than the Indians.
I don't know. The Indians are pretty good at slaughtering themselves. I mean, don't take.
Yeah, the Lakota might disagree.
Yeah, the Lakota, the Comanche, come on, man. There's a lot of Apaches. Yeah, they were really good at killing each other.
The Apache and some of the other languages is enemy and evil one.
Zev, are you saying? Hold on a second, Brad. Are you saying that the noble savages weren't just peaceful and handing each other peace pipes and maize and cornucopias at all times? They
most
were
of them smoked weed.
Yeah, right. They were evil and they killed each other. Next thing you're going to say they raped and enslaved each other too.
No, that couldn't be.
Is Darth Vader on the call, Adam?
Is someone vaping?
Yeah.
Come on, seriously. Oh my god, you fucker.
All right. So, okay, whatever.
What are we here to talk about?
The Indians were evil and they killed each other, and then the best thing we ever did for them was put them on reservations. Okay, period, the end. Yes, tonight on the Paranormies, we have our friend Zev back again. I believe it was a first season. Actually, you are one of the guests of one of our most popular episodes ever, the Skinwalker Wendigo episode. That a lot of people love that. When we did our top 5 of last season, people were like, "What about Skinwalkers?" We were like, "That was season 1. We didn't do a season 1 recap."
Right on.
But, yeah. So thanks for coming back, bud. And we tonight.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, yes, it's a pleasure to have you. And we're going to be talking about another topic that you are really into, and that is lycanthropes or werewolves.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And wolf cults in general.
Wolf cults in general. Ooh, cool. All right. So, who wants to start? What we all know. Everybody knows what a werewolf is, right? Werewolf is what, a human that changes into a wolf when the moon turns full, right? That is like the basic bitch explanation.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Different parts of the world have, were-tigers and were-bears and were-other things, but the werewolf is probably the most iconic.
There's were-possums in South America, too, which is fucking hilarious.
If you startle them, do they lay on their back in the middle of the road? Oh, dude, speaking of possums, sorry to bring this up, but today I was bringing the kid home from school, and there was a dead possum in the road, and there were 2 turkey vultures eating it. Those are freaking. That was like right there, little National Geographic. Sorry, you brought up possums. So.
Well, since you mentioned that you're not only talking about werewolves but lycanthropy, I figure I should mention the origins of that term, lycanthropy.
Yeah, let's do that.
We get the name Lycan from the Greek king of Arcadia. Well, in Greek mythology, the king of Arcadia, Lycaon, he was a man who had 50 children, which that's quite an accomplishment.
He's up there.
So he hosted Zeus, the king of the gods, in his palace, and he didn't think that Zeus was really Zeus. So what he did is he had his son. I can't pronounce it. I'm doing a Trent Holmgren right now, but it's like Nictimus. Nectimus. All right.
Yeah.
So he had his son Nictimus killed, and then he served the flesh of Nictimus to Zeus. And Zeus was really offended by this because, cannibalism is a big taboo in Greek culture. Right. So he turned Lycaon and all of his offsprings into wolves. And so we take that Lycaon, and that's where we get the term from, is from this old Greek myth.
Yep.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
As an aside, the myth or the story of King Lycaon and his sons is heavily speculated to be kind of an exploratory myth about the origins of the wolf cult in Greece, specifically Arcadia and the Peloponnese.
Well, there you go. That's pretty nasty. Yeah, they said it wasn't even just like he fed him, but they fed the entrails of his son to Zeus.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude killed his son to try and prank a god. Like, damn.
Yeah. Well, and then Zeus, Zeus turned everybody into wolves, but he revived the son, and actually Gaia intervened and brought Nictimus back to life. According to the Biblioteca.
Well, in addition to the term itself, that's also kind of the origin for the werewolf myth in Greece and a lot of the Balkans on its own.
Well, there's also the legend of the Neurians in ancient Greece, which were I guess you could say the tribe of people who turned into a wolf once per year.
Are you talking about in Arcadia?
No. This is but it's not Arcadia, but Herodotus, the fucking Greek historian. Yeah, mm-hmm. He talked about the Neurian people who would once per year turn into a wolf. Because you can see all kinds of different references to wolves. Throughout all sorts of Greek and Roman myths.
Yeah, it's Zeus. Well, their most important gods all have the wolf as a totemic animal, as in a symbolic way. Zeus, Mars, Apollo, or sorry, not Mars, Ares, but Mars too. And then the
tomato.
Yeah. Well, not quite, but yeah. Then Artemis and Apollo, they all have the wolf as their totem. Now, when people think of Zeus, they think of the eagle. Lightning, sky, divine justice, and all that. But in Arcadia, and that's why I thought you were talking about Arcadians, is where Lycaon, all that stuff originated. That was the center of. Sorry about that. That was the center of the wolf cult for Greece. Wolf Zeus was essentially seen as kind of the patron aspect of the god Zeus in that region. And so they had a festival called the Lycaea, something similar to that. And it took place on Mount Lycaon, which was the Wolf Mountain in, I think, central Arcadia. And the festival was essentially people would get really wild. They would kind of party, like, they'd get drunk. They would have a festival, but they would also culminate it in rituals to Zeus Lycaos, and allegedly they would consume human flesh by sacrificing certain people and then, feeding on them. And and it was believed that doing so, that Zeus Lycaos would, bless you and transform you into a wolf for 9 years. And then at the end of that, like the next group of, aspirants would take it up. And so it was almost kind of like I said, a wolf cult, like a religious initiation into them.
Could you repeat that last thing, a religious initiation?
Oh, it was like a religious initiation into like a brotherhood, which parallels a lot of other similar practices in, the rest of Europe as far away as Scandinavia.
There are other initiations that involve like transformation? There
are werewolf religious initiation rites and stuff in pretty much every part of Europe. It's one of the, in my opinion, the most signature universal practices among, Indo-European religions. There's a very clear connection between Europeans and the wolf, and even going back to their origins, from migrating, the Indo-European languages migrating from, the modern Eastern, European steppe.
Interesting. I have never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's not something that a lot of like religious, like, classical scholars talk about, because they're more interested in, the myths and, the stories and, the kind of the themes, the moral themes and, the message of the story. They're not as concerned, I guess, with the aesthetic or commonality, I guess. But yeah, the Greek festival that I was talking about, Lycia, that's what, like, the Romans had the Lupercalia, which you may have heard of. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty similar. But some people think that it was kind of a retcon on the Romans' behalf to link it together after they'd conquered the Greeks. I think it's more likely that it just has a common origin.
To link the Lycalia and Lupercalia together?
Yeah. But the problem I have with that is that Lupercalia is a festival of Mars, not Jupiter, and Lycaea is a festival of Zeus Lycaos, which would be the cognate of Jupiter for the Romans.
Right.
Yeah, while we're still talking about the Greeks, Apollo has a really, really strong association with wolves, probably stronger than any of the other ones. He too has the title Apollo Lycaos or Lycaon, which, Apollo the wolf. And he's regarded as kind of like the Lord of Wolves. Like Herodotus and other Greek writers actually referred to him as such. And there are several myths where he essentially sends wolves to act as like divine messengers or guides. They protect infants from people that would do them harm. They lead people, away from floods. Mm-hmm. So they're almost, they're divine messengers that Apollo sends to safeguard people that he, I guess, takes a liking to or has an interest in.
What about...
So do you think that... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Johnny.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'm actually need to rephrase my question because I just answered it myself. So,
so do you think that, like, did this originate from the story of Lycaos or Lycaon?
As in, like, the story influenced the practice?
Yeah, like did the wolf cult come out of it?
I think that the myth is to explain the wolf cult.
Oh, okay. So the wolf cult existed, and then this is part of their canon.
Yeah.
I use the word canon, but
I understand. Like I said, it's a pretty universal practice across Europe. These wolf cult kind of things. They serve slightly different purposes depending on which region you're talking about. But they all have different myths, like explaining the origin of it. But the fact that they all exist is what's universal and kind of predates the individual stories.
So regarding the wolf transformation, the initiates and I suppose the gods, they take an entirely canine form. Is that right?
It's not entirely clear. A lot of references refer to them becoming wolves as in the animal, but in certain cases where the person is like very notable, like for example in King Lycaon's case, he's described after his transformation as not a wolf like the animal, but he's a bestial wolf, but he has the same countenance and his same like I think it says you can see remnants of his his human face.
Okay,
so to a lot of speculate. They're talking about like the more Hollywood man wolf upright clawed beast kind of thing.
Okay,
and also the fact that in a lot of Greek pottery art that depicts him, it shows him as a man but with like fur and a wolf head and a tail.
Well, speaking of the Hollywood,
he's like a werewolf. Sorry, go ahead. John.
I was gonna say, well, you're talking about the typical Hollywood rendition or whatever. That's the Hollywood thing is a man who turns into a wolf, during the full moon, right? And turns into the upright, two-legged, like a walking on his hind legs wolf.
Yeah. The bipedal feral.
Bipedal, yeah, and sometimes with a tail, sometimes without. Depends on what movie you're watching. Yeah. I'm not sure. I'd never watched any of the Twilight gay series, but I'm not sure if the werewolf people had. I don't know. Hey, Brad, did Shark Boy have a tail?
I don't know. I didn't actually watch the movie. I just know what Shark Boy. I loved Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I never watched Twilight. Fuck you.
Okay, yeah, but no, like I don't remember. I remember Teen Wolf had a tail. So,
did you ever see that they remade Teen Wolf?
They did. They made it into a TV
like
show,
an MTV series.
Didn't they make they recently made a new Teen Wolf on like MTV or something? Didn't they?
Yeah, it's like some millennial garbage.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah, American Werewolf in London doesn't have a tail, and that's probably my favorite werewolf movie.
That's a great movie, man. I remember watching that when I was young, and like it was scary, but it wasn't scary enough to give me nightmares.
It's funny. Yeah. Well, it's either like a really, really dark comedy or a funny horror movie. Either way, it's one of my favorites.
Since we're talking about the werewolf movies, I guess the biggest one that like sort of set the whole pace for everything else was the old Lon Chaney Jr. movie, The Wolfman from Universal.
Never actually seen it.
What?
I've never seen the old one. I've seen the Wolfman, Lon Chaney. And like in the 30s, I think.
Oh, yeah, right. It's the old Lon Chaney. Okay, right. Yeah. Yeah, that was back with the old Bela Lugosi vampire movies and who played Frankenstein? Yeah. Shoot, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. The guy that played Frankenstein. I remember I remember Bela Lugosi and Chaney. Yeah.
Boris Karloff.
Boris Karloff. That's right. Boris Karloff. But the newer ones. What was the one with the movie with all the kids and the Frankenstein and Wolfman's got nards? You guys remember? No.
No.
What was that?
Some 80s movie where like these monsters came to life, and then there was a thing where it sucked them back up into the I don't know, whatever. I don't know, some 80s cheesy kid movie.
Wait, it sucked them into what?
They sucked them away like this vortex into the sky, just and took them away.
Oh, the Monster Squad.
Was it Monster Squad?
That was Monster Squad. Yeah.
That had a werewolf.
Yeah, he kicked the werewolf in the nuts, and he's like, Wolfman's got nards. So yeah.
That sounds really cheesy and dumb.
I don't think I would kick a werewolf in the balls.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of cheesy dumb.
You know what? I like cheesy dumb. I like cheesy dumb too, but But yeah, but that movie, you know, that movie went out, man. That movie actually brought it was one of those, oh god, the Jews and their movies. But like, you know, at the end of the movie, they always try to get that little tear jerking moment for, you know, and there's the Frankenstein with his hand out holding the little girl's hand as he's getting pulled into the thing. I don't know. I was like, yeah. Anyway, all right. Gay. Yeah, we're off topic.
Yeah.
Johnny has a heart.
Right? Johnny has a heart. That's what happens when you become a heartless cynic who either loves or hates Nietzsche, and depending on you know whether or not you're a big brain or small brain, and then you have a kid, and whether you have a heart or not, it grows, you know, humongous. And
honestly, I don't understand how anyone can be on the alt-right and be a fan of Nietzsche. He was a fucking childless degenerate who died of syphilis. There you go. That's who you're fucking worshiping.
Wow. All right. So werewolves.
I don't think Nietzsche was a werewolf.
No, Nietzsche wasn't a werewolf, but
yeah, but he was a faggot.
Allegedly.
Do werewolves glow, or is that just vampires?
Why would they glow? Oh,
neither of them do.
I don't know, Brad. You watched the movie?
So what's the deal with
the movie? I watched Shark Boy and Lava Girl. It's an entirely different movie, dude.
Okay.
How did the moon come to be associated with wolves or with werewolves?
Yeah, that's.
I'm not entirely sure, but I could theorize. My personal theory would be that, well, for starters, a lot of wolf gods also have associations with the moon, particularly like hunting goddesses like Diana.
Was Artemis a hunting goddess? God?
Yeah. Artemis is, you know, Greek Diana. Sorry. Yeah. Just like her brother Apollo, Artemis had the title of Artemis Lycaon. Like, you know, she's she wolf. And she had I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think she might have had her own priestesses that had some kind of temple of hers in Western Anatolia that was in that veneration of the aspect of her as, you know, the hunting she wolf.
Why do you think wolves are so significant in Europe? Are they like ubiquitous geographically?
I think it's the same reason. I think it's the same reason white people love dogs. Ultimately, I think it ties into our origins. You know, really long. You know, like not our origins. You know, like 2,000 years ago, but I mean like 10,000, 12,000 years ago or longer. You know, going back. You know, 40,000 years ago. I mean, I'm not going to get into the specifics of that, but mankind, you know, from the domestication of the dog, from, you know, the initial, you know, subspecies of wolf in, like, you know, Siberia and Central Asia and whatnot, they've always been our companions. I mean, we've always kind of idolized them. Like, you know, the cavemen, you know, imitated them in terms of, you know, hunting tactics, and they've always kind of been at our side in our psyche and in our legends and our cave art. And then as, you know, society becomes more sedentary and we lose our wolfishness as a species, we remember them fondly in our myths, and the fact that their descendants are faithful companions that guard our homes and family and, you know, love us more than most people ever could.
I sort of have a different view than that. I always think of them as like Europe's biggest predator was always the wolf. And that's where that kind of that fear of the wolf is what drove was sort of, this is more I'm talking about like the Middle Ages than
okay, yeah,
times, which that's where all these sort of werewolf tales came from, was just because everyone was deathly terrified of wolves, and if say someone who made a pact with the devil could transform into a wolf, that's the ultimate evil thing you could turn into.
Not to put on my fedora too tight, but I think a lot of that also has to do with the fact that Christianity, not necessarily in the Bible, but, you know, as a developing religion, did demonize wolves quite a bit. And I think that might have something to do with the fact that they used to
how
be
did
so
Christianity how did Christianity demonize wolves? Where?
Well, in a lot of, like, you know, medieval sermons and stuff, you have priests talking about wolves as, like, you know, the same way the demons are in the Bible, you know, how they harass Christ and the faithful and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, because, you know, wolves are they're kind of demonized as being gluttonous and ravenous and, you know, all sorts of kind of sinful behavior, you know. In Dante's Inferno, the she-wolf, Romulus and Remus's adopted mother, is guarding the gate of hell. I don't think that's coincidence.
Oh yeah, Romulus and Remus, they were supposedly raised by a she-wolf.
They were totally raised by a she-wolf. Their story is the divine founding of Rome and thus the divine founding of Western civilization. Everyone should know it.
And that was just
everyone should be in a wolf cult.
You want to give us a quick rundown?
Quick rundown. I could try. I don't know how quick it would be. It might be a little more lengthy than that.
Go ahead, man.
I'll go for it.
Or wait, did you just mean Romulus and anyway? So the kind of getting into the foundations of Rome a bit, I guess. The Aeneid is the story of the Prince of Troy who leaves with his followers and ends up, going on his own sort of odyssey and then ends up in Italy. And so the peoples of Italy, going back, to the Bronze Age and earlier, have always been very fond of wolves. You had in the north the Etruscans, who had their own wolf cult, wolf legends that are very similar to their neighbors. And then in the south, in modern, Naples, that whole region, around ancient Capua, you had, the Samnites and their different tribes. A lot of them had, tribal names that were cognitive for wolf people or wolf men, like the Hirpicani and stuff like that. But so the Latins, the Romans, we remember them most as with their association with the wolf because of Mars and because of, Romulus and Remus. So the story is that the king of Alba Longa, which was, the predecessor of the Roman territory, kind of, was the grandfather of Romulus and Remus. I forget him and the mother's name off the top of my head. But after his death, his daughter was deposed by the, typical lords that want power for themselves. And so she was forced to flee the city and, gave birth out in the wilderness to a pair of twins. And then there's different myths, but the most accepted one is that she, died in childbirth, or previously that she had been killed. But either way, she's dead. And so these two infants are, they're pretty much going to die. But a servant of the king or the old king, takes them to a shepherd who, kind of takes care of them. And then again, there's several variations of this, but then for whatever reason, he leaves them behind, or he leaves them in the wilderness. And Mars, being the legendary ancestor of the kings of Alba Longa, sends a she-wolf to essentially go adopt these twins. And she suckles them and she raises them. And her cave, her lair, is the Lupercals, the sacred cave where the twins were nursed, kind of. Mm-hmm. And even now, it's a site in Rome. It's an archaeological site, and there's like a mural on the bottom that depicts the whole scene. But so she nurses them. They grow in secret and being taken care of by a she-wolf that's a servant of Mars, again, like a divine messenger. They grow up. They gather followers. They return to Rome or Alba Longa. And they say, hey, we're the heirs of the rightful king, we're taking over again. So they do, But then ultimately, Romulus and Remus have different ideas on how to run the city and their emerging kingdom. And so Romulus kills Remus. Now, there are several variations, again, of how he kills them. Some of it he strangles them. Some of them he kills them in a duel. But there's one, and relevant to werewolves, where the idea is that Romulus himself kind of became a lycanthropic creature and killed his brother and, cannibalized him to an extent. And in the same way that this was relevant to the Greek festival Lycaon and the Roman Lupercalia, it's kind of the more mystical, legendary idea of how he would have killed him. But so because of the she-wolf and because of maybe that attestation, Romulus adopted the wolf as the symbol of Rome and the Roman people, his people. Most people think of the eagle when they think of Rome because they think of a lot of the imagery of it, but that only came later because of the associations with Jupiter and, all that stuff, imperial authority. Primarily and originally, the Roman and Latin symbol, the tribal totem, was the wolf. And it's relevant to their founding myth.
Oh, so wolves have a lot more to do with European origins than I had ever thought.
Yeah.
It's very weird that nobody talks about it.
Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said if you value Western civilization, you should be in a wolf cult. Fathers to us all.
Well, I value Western civilization, but I don't think I'm going to join a cult.
Then get naked and eat people.
Whoa! Haven't you already joined a cult, Brad? You're in the alt-right.
True.
You know, I'm going to race church every day.
That's good. So you your ass if you're not there.
I'm in my
race church is best church.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the story of Romulus and Remus, which is it's not necessarily werewolves, but
in a nutshell.
But wolves, yeah. No, okay. So
well, it's related to the wolf cult.
It is to the wolf cult. Well, let's do more werewolf stuff. So there's actually people who have a thing that's called hypertrichosis. You guys know what that is, right? Werewolf syndrome.
Where they're super hairy and deformed, right? Yeah,
they're deformed. For some reason, all the ones I've seen in modern history have been Mexican. For some reason, they're yeah. No, I mean that's.
Feel.
No. It was Spanish people that had it, wasn't it? And then eventually, you know,
that's
Mexican, Spanish. Yeah.
Okay, so
it started in
you're right. Yeah.
Spain.
Yes. Yeah, I believe one of the most famous ones is her name is Julia Pastrana. She was the wolf lady. She was a circus sideshow freak in like the 19th century. So hypertrichosis is also known as Amber's syndrome. There's two types. There's generalized hypertrichosis, which occurs over your whole body, or localized, which is like, you know, is restricted to like, you know, one arm or something. It basically what happens is you get completely covered in fur. You're basically furry like a wolf. And you know, for a while, people that had hypertrichosis were considered you know, wolf people and cursed. So mostly because, I mean, it mostly the generalized hypertrichosis affects your face mostly. So like, you know, I mean, if you
look like a wolf man.
If you look like a wolf man, yeah, exactly. You look like a wolf man.
I'm curious though, would that be common enough to be a source of origin for a lot of like the persecution of people in like the Middle Ages for being werewolves? Is it that common?
I don't think it would be. Because it's unbelievably,
it's unbelievably rare. Yeah, it's linked to a specific chromosome, and it's XQ24-27.1. If you know, for those science nerds, speak up and we'll hit you with a rock. But
I was about to say, dude, you're making me reach for my rock right now, speaking those words.
Right? I mean, there's some early photographs from the early 1800s. Crow Farini was one, and man, that kid looked like a legit werewolf. I mean, he was covered from toes to the top of his head in fur. And the thing is these people that haven't, like, in modern times have actually tried to use, like, what's the stuff you use for like for growing hair, minoxidil or whatever it's called. The I don't know.
Rogaine.
Somebody
is that different?
Rogaine, just ask. Somebody call Marlon. Somebody call Marlon.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That guy knows all about it.
Yeah, but the hair removal, anytime what happens whenever they remove it, it grows back like really fast. So and it doesn't, and, you know, there's no way to apparently there's really no way to permanently remove it, even with like modern like laser technology or whatever, because apparently it's like some, like I said, it's in your genes. So I don't know. There's a few famous ones. You had Fyodor Jeftichu, who was known as Jojo the Dog-Faced Man, Stefan Brabowski, Lionel the Lion-Faced Man. I see a trend here. Jesus Chuy Aceves, who was the Wolfman. And okay, here we have a white girl, Alice Doherty. She was the Minnesota Woolly Girl. Yeah, that's pretty messed up. You have like Julie Pastrana.
It's really unfortunate.
Yeah. It seems to have some sort of, like, most of these people have Latin-ish last names, so maybe it does have something to do with Spain or whatever. I didn't really read too much into the hypertrichosis, but mostly because it was really just weird. Oh, apparently Alice Doherty only had it on her face. There's the photograph of her, and she's from the 1870. She was born in 1860. But she looks like, if you cut the head off, she's completely normal. But she's got this. I kind of want to post a picture of her. I can't describe it.
Headless girls are pretty normal.
Yeah, no, the hair, like, she's got like a what looks to be like a Duck Dynasty type beard. But it starts at, like, right at her eyes. So, yeah.
Okay, hot.
Yeah, right? Yeah, but that's hypertrichosis.
It's getting a little hard right now.
Doesn't really seem like an origin, but it would definitely make someone a target of
I could see
persecution that already existed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. If anything, just for being a freak.
Yeah, and Brad, what were you saying? There was another disease. What is it called? Porphyria. That's similar to hypertrichosis.
Porphyria. It's not really similar, but it could explain sort of the madness, and it's, almost being like a rabid human being. It's so it's another genetic disease, and you have like a degeneration of your tissue. Like sunlight will cause your fucking skin to basically burn. You're covered in all sorts of rashes and boils, and it causes your hands to cramp up and almost form like you're walking around like your hands are claws. So you have a lot of hallucinations if you have porphyria, and that could explain, people thinking that someone was a werewolf. A lot of signs in medieval Europe that someone was a werewolf were they were very hairy, they were reclusive, they were quiet. Like, if you had a unibrow, everyone thought you were a fucking werewolf.
So, like, Ukraine's full of werewolves, or what?
I was just gonna say, there's a lot of Eastern Europeans that are werewolves. I thought they're all vampires.
Well, actually, a lot
werewolves.
of the vampire myths come from werewolf stuff. It's originally from werewolves and other lycanthropes, and then it kind of got Hollywood vampires kind of hijacked it.
Vampire, I don't know, I'm going to counter signal that. I think vampire myths go back all the way back as far as forever, pretty much.
Well, yeah, they do, but they're very, very similar. Like, in a lot of cases, they behave, at least for the Balkans. I'm talking about the Balkans.
Okay, fair.
I think it was,
okay.
Well, in the Balkans, they believe the werewolf was the product of incest, and I think vampires were something. There was a similar origin story for vampires being born of incest in some way.
Well, no, I thought they thought that vampires were born of people who had a tragic death or suicide.
I wouldn't know. I'm not really a vampire dude so much.
At least that's only what I know from, like, my own personal look into vampires.
What, Twilight?
Yeah, watching Twilight and Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Lava Girl, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know vampire. I know it seems that you can't get away from werewolves without talking about vampires, or get away from vampires without talking about werewolves. Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. It's they're always together, like, and in mythology. They're both shapeshifters, per se. They're both unexplained
cannibals.
Phenomena. They're cannibals. Yes, they're definitely both cannibals.
They can live amongst regular people and pass off as normal people, at least without certain circumstances, like a full
vampires
moon or
not so
sunlight.
well. Vampires not so much because of the whole, like, sunlight thing. But yeah.
But nighttime or when it's cloudy out.
Yeah,
then they won't sparkle.
Yeah, they don't sparkle. Yeah, or if you're or if they have an umbrella. Have you guys seen that? Anybody watch that show Preacher, where they got the Irish vampire on the show, and anytime he goes outside, he's got like a sun hat and an umbrella?
Is it an unbreakable umbrella?
Is there such a thing as an unbreakable umbrella, Brad? Really? Come on.
Oh, don't even get me started. I'll bring Shuff in this call.
The unbreakable. I was protected by the unbreakable umbrella at Charlottesville. I have to say, yeah.
Don't ever talk shit about it.
No, it's a great umbrella. Apparently, it's bulletproof and everything.
I really doubt that part, but it's definitely a good umbrella.
Yeah. Okay, so do we want to do Hollywood? We didn't completely like deplete the entire Hollywood werewolf trope.
No, in fact, I can talk about a little aside here. So we were talking about Lon Chaney's The Wolfman, which became like the most famous like sort of werewolf film, but there was one before that was arguably better produced, more well made, which was Werewolf of London, which was based off of the story Werewolf of Paris. And the reason it wasn't nearly as popular is because at the time there was the big debate over evolution in schools. So they weren't allowed to like show the transformation scene of the man turning into the werewolf. Oh,
that's right, because it was like
because there was that what was that case? Like, what was the big? There was actually like a court case about teaching evolution in school.
Was that? Oh no, not
Scopes,
Brown.
The Scopes trial.
The Scopes trial.
The
The Scopes monkey trial. Yeah.
I was going to say the Brown versus Board of Education, but totally different.
Different.
No, that's
different. That's a
niggers.
total different monkey there, Adam.
Different kind of animal.
Different kind of monkey.
Come on, guys. Oh wait, that was me. Yeah. I had to reprimand
Show's
myself.
starting to sound kind of racist.
I can't believe y'all sound like a bunch of racists over here. Okay. So the Scopes monkey trial, they couldn't show the transformation because of evolution. It was something to do with big Christianity or something, right?
So it's the idea of a man turning into another animal that's too close to evolution. And they weren't going to have, like, a lot of people weren't going to have that. That was like, there was a lot of pressure put on the directors from Universal, like, we don't want to do this. We're going to offend people. So they had everything occur off screen.
That was government pressure?
No, it was pressure from the production company Universal
to not do it.
Weird to not do it because they know, like, they're going to get a lot of backlash, and they didn't want that because they weren't the big fucking Hollywood magnates. They're not magnate. What is the word I'm looking for?
That's
Goliaths, like Hollywood
moguls.
Yeah, they weren't the big companies that they are today. Back then, they were still.
But they were. No, what year was this?
35.
They were. Yeah, I mean, they were the movie moguls back then. There were only the six families.
But they weren't. They certainly weren't multi-billion-dollar.
No, they didn't have the clout that
they had to
now.
think about what they did.
Yeah, now you have these movie companies, these Hollywood production companies that are fashioning history. You know what I mean? Like, you have more people believing certain things are real because they saw a certain movie about a certain list.
That is such a disgusting habit of modern society.
Yeah, I get my history from TriStar Pictures. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I get what you're saying. They weren't as
Spielberg's my history teacher.
Oh, for Christ's sake, we're gonna get into that in another episode, but or a couple of episodes. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying, Brad. So yeah, so they decided not to show, the transformation. And because it would cause too much backlash. That makes sense. I mean, back then, the country was still, your old 1930s. Well, this is between You said 35. Is that when was the Depression over? 36?
That's
the end of the
30.
Depression?
No, like 41.
41, right? This is still
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So 35 is 30. Was it 29 to 40? I'm really bad at the Great Depression era.
I thought it was 32.
About that.
Or no, it's 20. It was 29 to 41.
29 to 41. So you're talking smack dab in the middle of the Great Depression. You got a movie company making decisions about evolution. That's interesting.
We gotta eat.
Well, they were.
We can't stop making these movies, Goy.
Yeah. Well, during the Depression, that's kind of like one of the things that helped get people through. That was one of your little your little treats you could take yourself. You could take the wife out to.
The old monster movies of the time, man. That was.
Oh, the monster movies back then, man. The original monster. Those are some of my favorite movies of all time, man. Bela Lugosi, your Lon Chaney, and your Boris Karloffs, man. Those were great, man. Nosferatu was a great
and they all had
movie.
they had like what was the one where they all had a crossover where all three of them were in character in the same movie? I can't remember what that one was.
Oh, it's such a great movie. We ought to like that should be like a Paranormies movie night thing where we watch that movie. It'd be great. We should do Paranormies movie reviews where we like review old horror movies and stuff, like all that stuff, and like a MST3K for paranormal movie stuff.
I'm totally down.
Adam, make a note.
All right, we're ripping off the Mystery Science Theater.
We've been trying to rip that off for a while, but anyways, all right. So the Hollywood. So Werewolf. It was Werewolf in London was the ripoff of Werewolf in Paris, and that is the original werewolf movie, which then was with the Wolfman. Was the second one that was the the Lon Chaney, and then from there,
so Lon Chaney came to after the Werewolf of London.
Mm-hmm. Didn't they make a remake of Werewolf in London in the 80s?
That's American Werewolf.
American Werewolf in London. That's right.
Which is actually a pretty good movie.
Okay, yeah, I remember that being a really good movie. I remember seeing that when I was younger. I haven't seen it recently. But, does that I don't recall. Does that have anything to do with the original Werewolf in London?
I'm not sure because I've never seen the original, so I don't know if it's similar or not.
Is the Werewolf of Paris in any way based on the Beast of Gevaudan myth, or is it related at all?
Let me take a look.
Brad's gonna have to Google for a second.
I gotta look at Wikipedia and read the headlines of every single paragraph.
While Brad's doing the wiki, yeah. So that was where the Hollywood werewolf came from. Now, you guys remember in your werewolf lore that that on a full moon, whoever was afflicted with lycanthropy would turn into a werewolf and could not control their actions and went out and did all kinds of evil deeds. They'd kill people and eat sheep and do all kinds of crazy stuff, and then they'd wake up the next day naked, not knowing what happened. Right?
Are we still talking about Hollywood or
in general? That's kind of like the Hollywood theory too, right?
Well, that's kind of a Hollywood thing because a lot of werewolf stories are about like revenge and people making deals with the devil or witches so that they can do terrible stuff they can't in their human form.
Really? Okay, so
they needed the power or the disguise.
In medieval Christian society, I mean, a lot of social behavior is taboo and you can't get away with as much as you could now or in really archaic days. So, I mean, it would make sense if you were, a particularly vengeful or spiteful person that you would want to make some kind of deal or do some kind of ritual to become a beast so that you could, kill someone or, ruin their farm or, get some kind of vengeance or, grudge out with them. And then you wouldn't get caught because, it was a wolf, it wasn't me.
Okay, so they were using it as a disguise to commit this crime.
Yeah, in a way, it kind of parallels the Skinwalkers for the Native Americans, but in a more malevolent way.
Well, the Skinwalkers were witches pretending to be other people, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the difference with the European stuff is in a lot of the European stories, especially in Germany and France, it's usually someone kind of gullible that goes to a witch or some kind of, crazy old woman, and they get some kind of valve that she tells them to rub over their body under a full moon, and then, they can become a beast and go kill stuff. I think that's where they get the gypsy woman stuff in the werewolf movies. I think it comes from that tradition, witch kind of assisting the transformation. And of course, being the handmaidens of the devil or whatever, it has that, connection to satanic stuff as well.
Right. Speaking of Germany, excuse me, there's a Renaissance tale in Northwest Germany of a man named Peter Stubb. You guys heard this story? He's like one of the most notorious wolfmen of all time.
Yes, I have heard of that one. That one was interesting.
Pretty gruesome.
Yeah, he's the Ted Bundy of his time, basically. Or at least he confessed. That's what he says. Yeah. So there was a bunch of wolf attacks near his village, and the villagers were hunting the pack of wolves, led them straight to Peter, who allegedly he didn't resist when they captured him because he admitted that he was a werewolf. He admitted to making a pact with the devil and committed murder, cannibalism, and rape. He said he'd spent almost 20 years killing kids, including his own son, and livestock, and eating them, while repeatedly raping his own sister and daughter. He said he'd murdered pregnant women and eaten their fetuses, which he claimed as dainty morsels. Yeah, it's pretty gross, huh?
Ugh.
Yeah, he said that the devil, the powers that the devil gave him, he could transform into the likeness of a greedy, devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with eyes great and large, in which the night sparkled like a fire, a mouth great and wide, with most sharp and cruel teeth, a huge body, and mighty paws. Interesting.
When was this? Like what years?
This was
1580s.
1580 something, 1570 something. Yeah. So,
did you mention the magic belt?
I did not mention the magic belt. No, I did not mention the magic belt. What about that was the Peter Stubb was the magic belt? He claimed that
he had some of the stories, some of the accounts of the story feature this magical belt that he got from the devil that I think in most of the time it's like a belt of wolf fur that he got when he was 12 years old. And he could put it on to basically, that was how he activated his werewolf form.
Yeah, that's straight out of Indo-European folklore.
Interesting.
And a lot of those wolf cults I was talking about, they wore wolfskin belts to transform.
Is that kind of a parallel to a Native American skinwalker, sort of the dawning of the first
same
animal?
Thing. It's worldwide. Central Asia too.
Well, I know the Vikings used to put on bear skins before battle, so they could go into. They were referred to as berserkers. So
the berserker. Well, that was a thing. But the actual religious cult of warriors was the Ulfjadar, which was to Odin, and they wore wolf skins. They were the ones that were reported as going mad and getting biting their shields, and iron and fire can't hurt them, and they just go fuck that's mad and start ripping the shit out of everything.
Yeah,
but the Ulfjadar is the wolf shirts is their actual name.
Mm-hmm.
I knew about the bear shirts. I never knew about the wolf shirts.
Yeah.
I want a wolf shirt.
That's, in my opinion, that's where a lot of the Northern European wolf stuff comes from, like the folklore in medieval times. It's all descended from the wolf cult of Odin.
Oh, interesting. Well, right on. Real quick, you guys want to hear about how they killed Peter after they put him on the wheel of torture?
I would love to hear about
the
wheel of torture.
Hell of a game show.
Right? Yeah.
What do you win?
Right? So, I mean, he... Whether or not any of his crimes actually were true, or he just, one of those confessions of being tortured. The community basically decided that they were going to kill him in a very, very ghastly way. They pulled his skin off with red hot pliers. They ripped off his arms and legs and smashed them so he couldn't regain their use if he came back from the dead. And then they decapitated him. And for good measure, his daughter and mistress were also brutally executed via flaying and strangling. And then they burned all 3 bodies.
Sounds a little much, but okay. I get it.
Yeah. A little extreme, but okay. I mean, whatever. I mean, he did confess to, a lot of
heinous shit. Yeah.
A lot of heinous shit. Murdering, raping pregnant women and eating their babies. So yeah, that's pretty gross. Now, do we know that was an actual werewolf, or was he suffering from porphyria?
People aren't even technically sure if he did all that stuff.
Yeah, that's one thing. Right. It was back then. Those are like the days of the Inquisition. So if you were getting interrogated for something, they would use hot pincers on you. They would. They would torture the fuck out of you to get you to say things.
The Inquisition was like. And that was the other thing about stuff like during the Inquisition. It was like, well, once they got you, you were done. It didn't matter what you answered. Are you a heretic? Yes or no. I mean, yes, you're a heretic. You're going to die. No, you're not a heretic. Well, you're lying. You're going to die anyways. So, I mean, it's like, it's one of those, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So you might as well make up some good shit. You know what I mean? Like, give them a story on the way out. I don't know. All right. Yeah, right. If you're going to get damned, it's like going to hell in a handbasket. Why go in a handbasket? You're going to hell. Take a limo. So, speaking of taking, let's take a break. It's
yeah.
We're about 1 hour in. It's been fun so far. It's been a quick hour, actually. This is good. We're gonna listen to a song. I don't have a recommendation for a song this week, so I'm gonna find one, and we'll play a song.
Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne?
I would love to play Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne, but then we'll get our shit monetized on YouTube.
Speaking of, I have something. I'll once we're at the break, I'll see if
if somebody did if okay, that's fine. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll take a little break, and we're listening to some music, and we'll come back.
Trouble on the way. I see bombing and fighting. I see victory in our day. Don't come round tonight if you're anything but white. There's a race war on the rise. I hear the boats and started rolling. I know their end is coming soon. I feel our white nations are growing. I hear the voice of the red is ruined. Don't come round tonight if you're anything but white. There's a race war on the rise. Hope you got your guns together. Hope Jews are quite prepared to die. Looks like we're in for nasty battles. 10,000 eyes are taken for an eye. Don't come round tonight if you're anything but white. There's a race war on the rise. Don't come round tonight if you're
everybody, we're back. This is still the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. I'm still Johnny Monoxide with Bradshaw, Adam Haidt, and Zev. We're talking about werewolves. Before we went to the break, we were talking about that German story about Peter Stubb in how he had made a deal with the devil and became a werewolf. Zev, you said you had another story that's very similar to that.
Yeah, it's pretty well known. Alexandre Dumas wrote a book kind of based on it. It's the Beast of Gévaudan. Gévaudan being a region in southern central France, where it's a very kind of mountainous, hilly region because the Massif is there, and the Pyrenees and Alps mountains kind of form the flanks of either side of it. So it's very hilly, kind of wild country. A lot of wolves there, and in the 1760s, there was a lot of wolf activity in Europe in general, but here in Gévaudan, I think the first attack was in 1764, and it attacked a young woman that was I think she was in a field, like on a farm, like kind of near the border of the woods, and she saw this huge kind of reddish black bestial wolf creature come charging out of the woods at her. But I think like the family's bulls on their farm, they charged the animal, kind of like keeping it at bay. And then it killed some of them, and it went to attack her again. But by that time, she had escaped into like their house and was safe, but had killed some of the whole period, because it lasted like 3 years. It was like a 14-year-old girl, and she was killed in a village in Gévaudan. And then over the next few months, there's all these different wolf attacks, mostly women and children, vulnerable parties. But over the course of 3 years, it killed several hundred people, allegedly. So people, at the time thought that it was someone in their community or, someone who, again, made a deal with the devil or something. And, the entire region was, crazy with panic and with hysterics because, people were dying left and right from, these werewolf attacks. And so eventually the Kingdom of France, King Louis XV, I believe, he puts a bounty on it, and a very generous bounty. I don't remember the amount. So, all these wolf hunters, flock to Gévaudan and start, basically slaughtering the fuck out of any wolf they can find. The modern scholars and folklore enthusiasts, they think it was probably in actuality several wolf packs that were just very active in the region rather than a werewolf. But we wouldn't do the Paranormies if we didn't believe that it might have been a lycanthrope or even a series of lycanthropes that were terrorizing southern France. And eventually, in 1767, they killed a very large wolf, Jean Chastel. There was an organized hunt. I think a local nobleman organized it. He killed it in 1767. And I think it was later a literary adaptation, not necessarily factual, that he killed it with a silver bullet. And when they opened it up, its stomach contained human remains. The silver bullet thing isn't really verified by anything that I know of, but it's a fun legend, and it plays into that whole commonality of silver warding off foul entities and foul spirits and whatnot.
Yeah, I always wondered what was special about silver. It's a pretty common trope in paranormal, sort of like combating those things.
I honestly wouldn't know, but I would think it would have something to do with the fact that silver is a very pure-looking metal. It's very valuable and very, almost celestial, and it's kind of, it's like silvery, like heavenly light when bright light shines on it. So that would maybe kind of primordial man might think, a weapon made of like this shiny metal might be more effective because, it's, I don't know, somehow more significant or holy. There's too many different stories for me to have any idea what the common element would be in silver being a warding agent for evil.
Well, silver is supposed to be antibacterial in its way, and it's one of its properties.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I could see that. Most metals are actually really toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Y'all want some lead in your water?
Yeah.
Don't we have plenty of things in our water, but it ain't lead.
That's turning the frogs gay.
That's right. I was just gonna say that. Damn it.
Got all kinds of like Xanax and birth control and
Oh yeah.
and you drink too much tap water and you'll go on some crazy tweet spree.
Stop it. Stop it right now. That's for another show, not another episode.
Okay.
That's for a whole other show. All right.
I don't know if I'm allowed in that show anymore.
What did you do to them? How can you not be allowed on that show anymore? What did you do?
Sodomy.
Talked about whiskey for about 40 minutes straight.
Isn't that what the show's about, though?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't want to talk about whiskey for 40 minutes, but I insisted on talking about whiskey for 40 minutes.
All right. Well.
All right.
Talk about.
Yeah, werewolves. How about them wolfmen?
So,
Yeah,
okay.
To cap off the...
cap off. Finish your story.
Yeah, the Give All Dawn thing. They only actually ended the organized government wolf huntings and stuff after they brought in the carcass of some giant wolf that was it fit the original description. It was red and black.
It was supposed to be like the size of a small horse, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was the size of a pony, and so everyone it was brought to the king's.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and everyone tripped out holy crap!
That's a big freaking.
That is too big to be normal.
Wolf. I mean, really big. Wolves are 170, 180 pounds, maybe 200 pounds tops.
This thing was I think 500 pounds. I could probably look up how much it was reportedly weighed, but it was 500 pounds.
It's a large thing.
You need to eat a lot of people to keep those, get the calories you need.
Right?
Well, almost 300 total, I think. That was the claimed figure, about 300 deaths in the period.
Wow, we need to get Snopes on this to get the facts. That's crazy.
In 1987, one study estimated there had been 210 attacks, resulting in 113 deaths and 49 injuries. 98 of the victims were partially eaten. Another source claims it was between 60 and 100 adults and children, and injuring more than 30. Okay, so it's up for debate, I guess.
Still, that's a hungry wolf.
Yeah, Duran. They know what they're talking about.
That's a good song. That would have been good break music, but
what a great segue. But yeah. Speaking of hungry like a wolf, I don't know where I was going with that. I was gonna try and segue into something, but I lost it. So you guys know the whole the wolves howl at the moon, right? Ozzy Osbourne bark at the moon, all that, right?
Yeah.
Right. Guess what? Guess what wolves never do?
Howl at the moon.
Never howl at the moon. You know why?
Why?
Well, because howling means a communication only for wolves, and it can be dangerous for them if there are other, if there's a certain pack. Because wolves, they travel in packs, and you've got different packs in different areas. Then they're not necessarily territorial, where they have one section of the forest or whatever where this pack has, and this one pack has that, and whatever. But wolves in their packs, they communicate with each other with their howling, and if one wolf decides that they're gonna another wolf pack hears these wolves howling, they can be attacked by that. So they don't actually,
it's gangland, and they're gonna
it's basically gangland shit. Yeah exactly. They only do it when they have to, for communication, to find out where they are relative to the pack, for scaring away threats or whatever. But the whole howling at the moon thing, where they just sit out there, the typical stereotypical picture is, you see the wolf on the top of the rock outcropping with a giant moon in the background, and the wolf's got his head back and he's howling, right? That's
Yeah.
Some Jew drew that.
It's not real.
It's not real. I mean, I'm guessing. I'm guessing. You know, since Jews did everything.
It's a good guess.
It's a good guess. It's a good guess. They're very artsy. Those Jews. You know. So.
Yeah, I guess child sacrifice is an art, but you do you.
Yeah, well, no, they do. Well, they do all the comics and all that stuff and whatever. Graphic novels, depending on how gay you are about it. But yeah,
like anime.
No, not like anime. Jews can do anime.
Oh,
that's why anime is good.
Off track.
Yes. Well, no, we can get into no, Wolverine doesn't.
Did someone say anime?
If you wanted to recount what you mentioned about vampires and werewolves, like what Horace had said.
Oh yeah,
that's a really interesting point.
Yes. So Horace and I don't know if you guys know my friend Horace the Avenger. I am his co-host on the show This Week in White Genocide. Him and I, we have a lot of discussions about a lot of cool stuff. He was on Paranormies talking about Atlantis, Antarctica, and aliens. We're going to have him back on, hopefully this season, to talk about that some more. But him and I were talking about werewolves and vampires, and he has a theory that vampires, are ancient. They live for basically forever until they're, killed with a stake through the heart, or they're, set out in the sun for however long or whatever. However you kill a vampire, douse them in holy water, or whatever. And the werewolves are more, they're definitely animalistic. They have less self-control. They have no impulse control. They're really, really crazy, high testosterone, really, kind of insane. And how we always make the joke that Jew is anybody okay? What was that? You guys blowing your nose? Is somebody good?
I don't know. You sound kind of choppy on my end.
Is it? All right, let me.
Oh, it
sounds okay
now.
To me.
It sounds okay now.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me make a note of that. Okay.
Are you sipping something?
Who's somebody doing cocaine?
No.
Somebody snorting cocaine right now? Or no, I'm joking. I just heard like a. No. Okay.
Well,
I'll edit this part out. What
the hell?
Okay.
Do you guys hear that?
So.
I mute myself when I'm not talking, so it's not me.
Okay. So, we have always had like this. I wouldn't call it an understanding, but like kind of maybe a belief or whatever that Jews are similar to vampires, right? How they suck the life out of whatever society they live in, whatever, and it's just kind of like a
You can't get rid of the damn things.
Well, yeah, you can't get rid of them, and there's only certain ways you can get rid of them. It's kind of like a good analogy, but but the vampires are actually more like the Zbigniew Brzezinskis of the world, where they've lived forever. Like that guy's been around for like 100 years until he just recently died. And that the Jews were actually more like werewolves, where they were more animalistic and tribal and well, definitely animalistic and savage and
the whole preying on children trope.
Lacking in impulse control, and the whole preying on children thing too. Yeah. But yeah, Horace and I discussed that for a while, and it sounds. I mean, the more we talked about it, the less Jews seemed like vampires, and the more they seemed like werewolves. Actually.
I don't know if I would agree with that, just because the Jews, Israel, Canaanites, they were a very pastoral society, so wolves were, very much an antithesis to their livelihoods. They were not very fond of them at all. And I think the tribe of Benjamin is referred to condescendingly as like a band of wolves, like in terms of their behavior and identity.
Are you saying? Oh, so you're saying Jews are Israelites? Okay, all right. Well, we're not going to be able to have you on the show anymore. No. Everybody knows that white peoples is the real Israelites, and that the Khazars be the Jews.
motherfuckers.
Where's DeMarcus when you need him, right? But yeah, so just kidding. I'm not really Christian identity, even though it is the most racist religion, and it does sound good to me. But anyways,
it's no positive Christianity, but I like it.
I like the whole. I mean, I'd like to think that being white, that I'm one of God's chosen.
Chosen for what?
Just
to rock.
To be God's chosen. I don't know, Adam. I don't even know what. Yeah, when they say the chosen people, they're the most special in God's eyes. And whatever. All right, let's listen. We are digressing. We're gonna call this the digressing episode. Back to the werewolves.
Every episode that has ever been recorded.
It's what? This isn't the shit.
All right, let's.
Episode.
Okay, so. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of the wolf cults?
Just the I think probably because a lot of people are into Nordic and Germanic stuff, we should probably touch down on Odin and what he's got going on.
Specifically, how it relates to wolves.
Yes.
Okay.
So Odin, he had his two wolf companions, Skari and Freki, which were like hunger, and their names were cognates for hunger and like the desire to gorge oneself. And again, a common trait of werewolves is they like to gorge themselves just on people generally. So in the Volsunga saga, that's the one that inspired the Nibelungen Wagner's Ring cycle and all that. The protagonist Sigurd is actually a werewolf. I'm not gonna, because it's fucking long. It's a whole epic. But so this part of it is he's living under the tutorship of, I believe, his father, who is also a werewolf, and they're kind of in exile, living off the land, and they actively turn into wolves to both hunt for their food and to kill people that that they dislike, or like to get their revenge. And so we have this literary figure, this heroic character who's seen as an inspirational kind of Hercules type, and he's a werewolf. He goes around eating people and shit. So it's a very different attitude than the more modern, or I guess less modern, but still archaic view that the werewolf is a creature of evil. It's a creature of the devil and black magic and stuff. Because like how I wouldn't say it's an exact comparison, but we think of the Crusader, like those holy orders, as kind of the elite, faithful, zealot kind of warrior class of the Christian faith. Whereas, like I said earlier, the Ofiodar, the wolf shirts, they're kind of a cultural similar thing to Odin's cult. And they don the skins and trappings of, their god's sacred animal, and they become that animal, Whether a lot of times, this is seen as metaphor, but, I'm of the belief that it is metaphor in the case of historical record, but it's literal in terms of, the folklore practice, the religious practice. And you have, stories of, again, witches having salves and brews that, you drink or that you rub on yourself and you transform into a wolf. And in a lot of these stories, too, regarding, the more literary ones rather than examples of battle, you still retain control over your own mind. You know what you want to do. You recognize people. It's not the kind of Hollywood thing where you wake up in a field like, whoa, where'd I go? They very much remember what they're doing and have specific motivations and such. So you have literary characters like Sigurd, or German Siegfried, who's a werewolf and kills people, and he's totally glorified. Everyone thinks he's great. And he himself is a literal descendant of Odin. So you have this whole cultural fixation on the idea that the ability to turn into a wolf and kill and eat people doesn't make you damned. It doesn't make you evil. It means that the highest of high gods himself thinks you're worthy of his attention.
Oh, so that's radically. It's totally opposed to the more traditional view, or not traditional, but the mainstream sort of popular view.
Yeah, absolutely. that's why as pop culture kind of gets more into Nordic stuff and werewolf stuff, I really find myself cringing as someone who's very fascinated by both things. It's just kind of like watching it being ham-fisted, smashed together. It's just kind of like no, it's like that Geico commercial. This isn't how any of this works.
I wonder who could be behind such a thing.
Oh, I don't imagine what you're talking about there, Goy.
Hey,
but ultimately, what?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say ultimately, I think the transformation of the werewolf, because in addition to the Nordic and Germanic world, it does have some pretty positive connotations elsewhere, like I talked about in Rome or in Greece and the Celtic world too. But the transformation of the lycanthrope, the shapeshifter, from religiously significant, honored figure into a demonized sorcerer is pretty remarkable in the sense that it kind of did a complete 180 in terms of its cultural perception and its nature.
Well, in the Germanic culture, the werewolves have always kind of been ominous and evil. I mean, there's I've been,
but so is Odin, technically.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I found this cool website. It's a bunch of werewolf legends from Germany. Whenever you guys are done, you guys want me to read you some cool stories, some German werewolf stories. These are actually pretty cool.
Definitely.
Like the Moorbach monster. You guys ever heard of the Moorbach monster?
Is Hitler responsible?
Actually, this one might be because it's post World War II.
So, all right. Let's hear it.
The Moorbach monster. Have you ever heard of the Moorbach monster? I first learned of the legend while I was stationed at Hahn Air Force Base in Germany. Moorbach was a munitions site just outside of the village of Wittlich. Supposedly, Wittlich is the last town where a werewolf was killed. There's a shrine just outside of town where a candle always burns. The legend has it that if the candle ever goes out, the werewolf will return. One night, a group of security policemen were on the way to their post at Moorbach when they noticed the candle was out at the shrine, and they all joked about the monster. Later that night, alarms were received from a fence line sensor. When the security policemen investigated the call, one of them saw a huge dog-like animal stand up on his back legs, look at him, and jump over the 7.5-foot chain link fence. A military working dog was brought to the area where the creature was last seen, and the dog went nuts, not wanting anything to do with tracking the creature. This was about 1998. So,
whoa,
yeah. This is an email dated October 6th, 1997, to a D.L. Ashliman from a respondent who wishes to remain anonymous. And there's another eyewitness account that reads as follows. I was stationed at Hahn Air Force Base, Germany from May 86 to August 89 as a security policeman, and it was my group that witnessed the Moorbach werewolf. Whoever told you the story about the monster that you put on your website had a very accurate information. The creature that we saw was definitely an animal, was definitely a dog or wolf-like. It was about 7 to 8 feet tall, and it jumped a 12-foot security fence after taking 3 long leaping steps. From an email received by the same D.L. Ashliman in 1998. Well, interesting. You said something earlier about the belts. The belt that can turn you into a werewolf. So the wolf strap, does that sound like? Yes. So by using the so-called wolf strap, a person could transform himself into a werewolf. Whoever fastened the strap around himself would turn into a wolf. Now, the thing is, if somebody calls out the name of the person who had turned himself into a wolf, the wolf would regain his human form. That's pretty standard in a lot of these stories. There's one where this guy, where is it? I just read it a second ago. I'll go back to that one. I'll get to it in a second. But in earlier times there were such many straps, but today, along with the wolves, they seem to have been banned to Russia. Again with the Russians. A wolf strap was a gift from the devil. A person who possessed such a strap could never get rid of it, however much he wanted to. Anyone who accepted the wolf strap also entered into a brotherhood with the devil, surrendering his body and soul to him. If real wolves were feared in earlier times, werewolves were feared all the more. A real wolf could be shot dead or lured into a wolf pit where it could perish from hunger. However, a werewolf could not be brought down with a rifle bullet, nor would it ever fall into a wolf pit. Well, what's the use of running around as a werewolf, you might ask, right? Well, it wasn't done for no good reason. When the pantries and meat containers were empty, one would only have to fasten on the wolf strap and run off as a wolf, seek out a fat sheep, and, eat it, right? You could,
again, using lycanthropy to get away with crime.
Exactly. You could, then bring it home without anybody noticing. You brought home some lamb and whatever, right? Or the werewolf would know when a peasant was going through the woods with a lot of money. You could ambush him, rob him, and then run across the field with the stolen goods. Again, using lycanthropy to commit a crime.
Interestingly enough, that parallels a lot of stuff too, in again, kind of archaic stuff, and that bands of young men who would kind of maraud around town were specifically referred to as like wolfmen. I think in Ireland in particular, it was almost a cultural practice that young men would kind of essentially form gangs and kind of maraud around the countryside stealing cattle and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, exactly.
A very that very special uncle of ours was also very fond of wolves. He actually named his U-boat squadrons the Wolf Pack.
Yes, he was very fond of wolves, and for good reason.
Supposedly, he would whistle the theme music to the Three Little Pigs when walking around his bunker.
Oh, yeah?
I like that.
I just realized that we have not mentioned the Wolves of Inland even once.
Oh, God.
And let's keep it that way.
And let's keep it that way.
Can we not?
All right, let me get back into these German stories. These are really cool. The more I'm reading these are great. So, about 60 years ago in Alt-Marin, there lived a man by the name of Gust K. He possessed a wolf strap, which he brought about much damage and misery. Finally, the strap was taken from him, and it was to be burned. 3 times the baking oven was heated up, and 3 times the strap was thrown into the glowing fire, but each time it jumped back out of the flames. Nor would water damage the strap, it always returned. However, the pastor from Fritzau finally burned it up. When Gustke died, the pastor at Alt-Marin could not finish the Lord's Prayer, and they called on the pastor from Fritzau. The latter said, "Away, away, away with it." They tried to lower him into the earth. The grave opening was too small, so the pallbearers had to trample him down with their feet. For a long time afterward, there was always a hole in his grave mound, but it will be closed up by now, for grass has been growing over the story of Gustke for a long time. That's not really a werewolf story. Oh, this one has a huntsman. That's a fox story. Never mind. Werewolf legends are well known. According to them, many people possess the power to transform themselves into wolves by putting on the wolf strap. They would then roam about at night, attacking their enemies or their enemies' cattle. In Fahrenholz in the year 1682, a number of people were accused of being able to transform themselves into wolves and were put on trial. Was there a lot of wolf trials in the late 1600s? Or is that just...
Yeah. I mean, the whole period of like 1570 to like 1700 just seems to be like a period of mass hysteria for Europe, witches, werewolves, vampires.
Right. So it says only 30 years ago in the 1840s. This story is 1870. Numerous examples of this kind of magic were related in all children's rooms. Although there have been no wolves in Mecklenburg for more than 100 years, this proves how widespread these legends formerly must have been. Bayer in the Mecklenburgist Jahrbuch states that so far as I remember in my youth, I'd only heard of male werewolves, never females. However, in other regions, gender makes no difference. So I actually don't recall any stories of female werewolves. They're almost, as far as I know, they're all male. Anybody ever heard of a female werewolf? Any of these stories?
I certainly haven't.
Yes. Medieval Italy, I think in Florence. It was a girl that was a daughter of a nobleman. I forget the family, but she had been spurned in an engagement, and so she made a pact with the devil. And she ate her former intended and his new bride on their wedding day. And when the guard pursued her in the form of a wolf, they chased her out. And as she was running out of town, she was shot. I think like a cross. She was shot and killed. But then when the guard went to retrieve the body,
with a crossbow? Ouch.
This is like the 1400s, so I'm not sure, like the late 1400s. So I'm not sure if it would have been a primitive musket or crossbow. The story I remember, it just says shot, so I'm not sure. But when they go to recover the body of the wolf to be like, holy shit, this wolf just ran into a wedding and killed 2 people, they don't find a wolf. They find a naked young woman laying in the dirt. And God, I wish I could remember the name of that.
Yeah, that
so.
Seems like
otherwise, it's pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
Because that one certainly fits into the trope of using the
Martina
werewolf disguise.
Millar. Wait, never mind. Don't listen to me.
Okay. 2 more quick ones. A young woman whose husband was often unexplainably absent came to the suspicion that her husband was a werewolf. So they were both working in the field one day, and again, he disappeared. Suddenly, a wolf came out of the bushes and ran toward her and grabbed her red woolen skirt with its teeth and shook her back and forth. And she finally fended off with a pitchfork that she had, and it ran back off into the bushes. About 10 minutes later, her husband emerged from the same bushes from whence the wolf had disappeared. She told him of her frightening experience. He laughed, thereby revealing the red woolen threads that were stuck in his teeth. She reported him to the judge, and he was burned to death.
What a bitch.
What a bitch, right? Second story, a woodcutter was working in the forest with his brother. The brother went away, and soon thereafter a wolf came out of the nearby bushes. The woodcutter wounded him on his right front leg with his axe, and the wolf retreated howling. So later on that evening, the woodcutter returned home, and he found his brother in bed with his right arm hidden beneath the covers. After repeated threats, only then would the brother reveal his arm, and it was the same wound that the woodcutter had given to the wolf. So he reported his brother, who was burned to death. Mm-hmm. What a dick.
Speaking of the woodcutter connection, have you heard the theory that Little Red Riding Hood did is a werewolf story?
Yes, I was just gonna do that. That's the werewolf of Kleinkroms. That's
really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the wolf in the grandmother's bed, the huntsman and stuff. Yeah. So in the vicinity of Kleinkroms near Ludwigslust, in the former times, there were extensive forests. I like to mispronounce words. They were rich with game that the dukes came to this region and had their great hunts. During these hunts, they almost always saw a wolf who, even though he came within shooting distance, could never be killed by a huntsman. Indeed, even they had to watch as he took a piece of game before their very eyes, and something that was most remarkable to them, ran with it into the village. Very strange for a wolf to run towards civilization. Now, once it happened that a hussar from Ludwigslust was traveling through the village and just happened to enter the house of a man named Fieg. When he entered the house, a flock of children stormed out of the house with a loud cry and hurried into the yard. When he asked them about their wild behavior, they told him that except for a small boy, no one from the Fieg family was at home, and that he, as was custom when no one was at home, had transformed himself into a werewolf and that were running away from him because otherwise he would bite them. Soon afterward, the feared wolf appeared, but by now he laid aside his wolf form. The hussar turned to the Fieg child and tried to learn more about the wolf game, but the child would say nothing. However, the stranger would not give up, and finally he succeeded in making the child talk. The child told him that his grandmother had a strap, and if he put it on, he would instantly become a wolf. The hussar kindly asked the boy to make an appearance as a werewolf. First, the boy refused, but finally he agreed to do it, if the strange man would first climb into the loft so that he would be safe from him. The hussar agreed to this, and to be sure, pulled up the ladder with which he had climbed into the loft. As soon as this happened, the boy ran into the main room and soon came out as a young wolf and chased away all those who were standing in the entryway. As the wolf had run back into the main room and come back out as a boy, the hussar climbed down and had the Fieg child show him the magic belt, but he couldn't discover anything unusual about it. Afterward, the hussar went to a forester in this vicinity of Kleinkroms and told him what he experienced in the Fieg house. Upon hearing the story, the forester, who had been present at the great hunts near the Kleinkroms, immediately thought about the werewolf who could not be wounded. He now thought that he would be able to kill the werewolf. The next hunt, he said to his friends as he rammed a bullet of inherited silver into the barrel of his rifle, "Today the werewolf will not escape from me." His companions looked at him in amazement, but he said nothing further. The hunt soon began, and not take long before the wolf showed himself once again. Many of the huntsmen shot at him, but remained unwounded. Finally, he approached the forester, who brought him to the ground Everyone can see that the wolf was wounded, but soon he jumped up and ran into the village. The huntsmen followed him, and the werewolf outran them and disappeared into the Feig farmyard. In their search, the huntsmen came into the house where they found the wolf in the grandmother's bed. They recognized it from the tail that was sticking out from under the covers. The werewolf was none other than Feig's grandmother. In her pain, she had forgotten to take off the strap, and thus she revealed the secret.
Huh.
So the grandmother was really the werewolf.
I like that. What a twist!
Yeah, because
what a twist! Yeah, it's the M. Night Shyamalan version.
There's also another Grimm's fairy tale that has a werewolf. This one I'm not really. It's just kind of a weird story about a soldier who goes out into a forest to cut wood with his grandfather. Pretty usual stuff, you know. But they brought this third dude along who the grandfather thought there was something weird about him. And so they did their job, they got tired, and the third dude, the weird dude, was like, all right, well, why don't we take a nap? So they all laid down, but the grandfather, he only pretended to be asleep, and he kept his eyes open a little bit, and because he wanted to see what the third dude was going to do. And he saw that this weirdo get up, and he either took off or put on a belt. I guess the story, there's different versions of it, but in any case, this belt was involved, and he became a wolf after he either put it on or took it off. We'll just say he put it on. And specifically, it wasn't just like a wolf; it was more like a werewolf. It didn't look like a regular wolf. So he ran off to a field and killed a pregnant horse, and then ate it. Came back, and he laid down again after he took off the belt. And then they napped or whatever and went back to town. And this weirdo, the werewolf guy, complained that I had a stomachache. And so as they were, kind of entering the town, the grandfather just whispered to him, and he says, well, if you eat a whole horse. But the third man was just like, if you said this to me in the forest, you would not be able to say it now.
So, did he kill him, or?
No, it's more just like...
It was like a very thinly veiled threat.
Like a threat. Yeah, I don't really get... I don't know. It's like... I'm not sure what the point of that story was, but apparently it was popular enough that they, it was a fairy tale.
Yeah, the Brothers Grimm made that, yeah. Well, there's another Grimm story. It talks about a woman taking the form of a werewolf. She attacked the herd of a shepherd who she hated. And the shepherd wounded the wolf in the hip with an axe, and it crawled off into the bushes. The shepherd followed the wolf into the bushes, didn't find a wolf, but he found a woman who was trying to stop an axe wound on her hip. So, there's... I
think it's interesting that the wounds carry between these forms, changing. Because obviously...
It's the thing is you injure, it's injuring the physical form, whether it's wolf or person. If you shoot, if you cut off its hand and it, transforms back into a human, is that hand gonna come back? No, you cut the hand off, so it's no longer.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm just nitpicking the minutia of it because their form is already changing. It's just interesting, the way that.
If you try to physically explain, like a medical way, lycanthropy, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Adam, that story is actually called Der Werewolf. The one that you read.
Oh.
Yeah.
Die Werewolf.
Yeah.
There's another Werewolf Rock.
Very scary.
Very scary. Another Jacob and Wilhelm.
Hi.
Stop it. No, we're not Bruno posting. Okay. So in the meadow facing Schihausen near the Magdeburg village of Eggenstadt, this is gonna I'm getting better at this, but I'm getting better at this because I've been watching World War II German newsreels in German with our buddy 88 Showers, who's gonna come on. By the way, all you guys gotta check this out. This season we're gonna do an episode on on Sardinia and the Sardinian giants. Remember you guys did Nephilim with the giants? Yeah, with my buddy. You remember 88 Showers from Mania, right, Adam?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, he's gonna come on.
Last time I saw him, we were talking about this kind of stuff, and I'm really looking forward to him finally coming on the show.
Yeah, that's my buddy. But anyways, yeah, he watches a lot of World War II German newsreel stuff. So like I was watching it while I was hanging out with him for a little bit there, and it's helped my German pronunciation quite a bit. Eggenstadt, not far from Schommelschenberg and Schoningen, there is a large rock called Wolf Rock or Werewolf Rock. A long, long time ago, a stranger sojourned near the Brandslieber forest, which belonged to the Hachel and Harz districts. Oosh, that one almost didn't come out. No one knew who he was nor where he came from. Known everywhere by the name The Old Man, he would often show up without notice in the villages and offer his services, which he performed to the satisfaction of the country people. He was most often engaged to herd sheep. It happened that a cute spotted lamb was born in a herd belonging to a shepherd named Mel from Neindorf. The stranger asked the shepherd repeatedly and fervently to give it to him, but the shepherd refused. On shearing day, Mel engaged the old man to help out. When he returned, he found everything in order, all the work had been done, but neither the old man nor the spotted lamb were there. For a long time, no one had heard anything about the old man. Finally, one day, he unexpectedly appeared before Mel, who was grazing his sheep in the Cotton Valley. He called out sneeringly, "Good day, Mel. Your spotted lamb sends his greetings." Angered, the shepherd grabbed his crook in order to avenge himself, and suddenly the stranger changed shape and sprang at him as a werewolf. The shepherd took fright, but his dogs attacked the wolf with fury. The wolf fled. Pursued, it ran through the forest and valley until it reached the vicinity of Eggenstedt. Here the dogs surrounded him. The shepherd called out, "Now you will die." Then the old man, again in human form, begged to be spared, offering to do anything. But the shepherd furiously attacked him with his stick when suddenly a sprouting thorn bush stood before him. But the vengeful shepherd did not spare him, hacking away at the branches instead. The stranger once again turned himself into a human and begged for his life. But hard-hearted Mel remained unmoved. Then the stranger attempted to make his escape as a werewolf, but a blow from Mel brought him dead to the earth. A rocky cliff marks the spot where he fell and was buried and will be named after him for all eternity. This is Der Werwolfstein in the Brothers Grimm library.
That's freaking
I can't
brutal.
help but feel like a lot of these stories, the werewolf kind of gets unjustly targeted.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about unjustly. They're stealing.
He's beating up an old man.
Maybe not unjustly, but I don't know. It's like, or maybe not that one particular.
The werewolf was the old man.
Like a lot of times, it's like, oh, yeah. I didn't mean that one in particular, but a lot of the Brothers Grimm and like kind of fairy tale legends, it always seems like it's like, oh, there's a werewolf. I have to kill it because it's a werewolf.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, dick.
Yeah, right. Come on, he was just look. He's a wolf. You had sheep. What do you want? You know what?
Yeah, it's like, I get it, but
no, there. You have sheep. There's a wolf. Wolves eat sheep. You know, hey, don't have so many sheep near the wolf, and you know, it won't get eaten. I don't know.
Build a fence, bro.
Maybe if we had more programs to teach the wolves to not eat the sheep.
We just need more money for them wolf programs.
That's right. That's right. We need more money for them programs. When I think we need more money for them programs. But anyways. Amren, Borther. Amren. All right. So, yeah, dude, there's this thing goes on and on and on and on. These are all German werewolf stories.
I was going to say, Germans seem really fond of the werewolf legend.
Yeah, I mean,
Germans
this is
are also notorious cannibals.
Hold on, the Germans are what?
Oh, well, I was kind of kidding, but I mean, like all these like famous cannibalism cases, they're almost always German dudes. It's like German guys just like eating people.
Yeah, but the thing is okay. So all these stories that I've read so far, other than the very first one at the army base, whatever, every single one is 1848, 1862, 1854, 1854, 1861. These are all, these are all the 1800s. So, these are all pre. I don't know. What do you think? Who do you think's writing all these? Who do you think's writing all these stories back then? I mean, you've got J.D.H. Temme, you've got the Brothers Grimm, you've got Alexander Schopner, you've got Karl Muhlenhoff, Karl Linkner.
Well, I think in a lot of cases, it's probably maybe older stories that have been around for a while, but just kind of get passed down with the generations and are ultimately transcribed in a more fairy tale type settings. It has a sense of constancy.
Definitely. No, these are definitely old stories passed down. I mean, there's one, this is one from 1840, and it says 200 years ago. So we're looking at, 1640?
16.
Yeah, 200 years ago, for a time, there was a frightfully large number of werewolves in the city of Greifswald. They were especially prevalent in Rockover Street. From there, they attacked anyone who appeared outside their houses after 8 o'clock in the evening. After that time, there were a lot of venturesome students in Greifswald. They banded together and one night set forth against the monsters. At first, they were powerless against them until finally the students brought together all of the silver buttons that they had inherited, with which they killed the werewolves. Again, with the silver. And again, hey, listen, if you're out after 8 o'clock, you're either a thought or a hooligan. So,
Better be in race church.
You better be in race church at 8 o'clock. That's right. But no, these are, these stories, like, these are all these stories about Pomerania. You're talking about old Germany. There's some from Slovakia. The Werewolf's Daughter is a story from Slovakia. There's, the Werewolf of Bettenborg from Luxembourg. Hold on, I'm going to look at that. Oh, and that one is URL not found. I got a 404 on that one. Great. The Werewolf of Luxembourg does not want to be talked about this evening. Spooky.
Well, then that must mean it was a true story.
I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't.
Here's that whistle. I don't.
Okay.
What was that one?
X-Files theme.
Oh, yeah, you're right. X-Files. The Slovakian story. Yeah, exactly. Hey, by the way, fuck the X-Files. They took a knee. Fuck them.
Yeah, dude, seriously.
What?
Wait, what?
David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson took a fucking knee. Yeah.
All right, call the Werewolf Squad.
Yeah,
Fuck these guys up.
That's right. So there's a Slovakian werewolf story. It's pretty long. In that German werewolf legends page, the story of Peter Stub that we talked about earlier. They have the long version of this one, and it's like 3 pages long. I'm not reading that. We don't have time, but it goes into, like, there's poetry at the end and stuff, and there's a list of witnesses who said they've actually seen all this stuff and whatever. Yeah, it's a pretty long story. I scanned through it, and what I read earlier was really a Cliff Notes version of what actually happened. He, according to, like, and a lot of it was hearsay and personal accounts only. There wasn't much scientific evidence. Of course, we're talking the 1800s, so it really wasn't much scientific evidence back then anyways. But if you were to take what these people said seriously, this guy did a lot of really, really nasty stuff, and he makes Ted Bundy look like Choir Boy, basically. It was pretty nasty, the things he did to people and women. Anyways, yeah, so the Slovakian story is about... There's a story about a father who had 9 daughters, and he was a werewolf. The father was a werewolf. So, interesting. said that he said to himself, "What is the good of having to support so many girls?" These are the things that, right? So he determined to put them all out of the way. Yep. He went accordingly into the forest to cut some wood. Yeah. He ordered his daughters to let one of them bring him dinner. It was the eldest who brought it. He said, "Why are you so early with the food?" She said, "Truly, father, I wish to strengthen you, lest you fall upon us if famished." "Ah, good lass, sit down while I eat." He ate, and while he ate, he thought of a scheme. He rose and said, "Come, my girl, I will show you a pit I've been digging." She said, "What is the pit for?" He said, "That is a pit we may be buried when we die, for poor folk will not be cared for after they are dead and gone." So the girl went with him to the side of the deep pit. "Now here," said the werewolf, "you must die and be cast in here." And so, he threw her in the grave, and he basically went through the other, the rest of the daughters. He got all the way through. Then he came to the last. Yeah, exactly. He came to the last daughter, and she pushed the father into the pit. And he scrambles out of the pit. Now the daughter hears his howls resounding through the gloomy alleys of the forest. As swift as the wind she runs. She hears the tramp of his approaching feet and the snuffle of his breath. She casts behind her handkerchief. The werewolf seizes it with her teeth and nails and rends it until it is reduced to tiny shreds. In another moment, he is again in pursuit, foaming at the mouth, howling dismally while his red eyes gleam like burning coals. As he gains on her, she casts behind her gown and bids him tear that. Okay, now she's running nude through the woods. He seizes the gown and rips it to shreds, and then again he pursues. This time he casts behind her apron, next her petticoat, then her shift. Oh, wait, no, now she's naked. And last runs much in the condition in which she was born. Again, the werewolf approaches. She bounds out of the forest into a hayfield and hides herself in the smallest heap of hay. Her father enters the field, hauling about in search of her, cannot find her, and begins to upset the different haycocks, all while growling and gnashing his gleaming white fangs in his rage at her having escaped him. The foam flakes drop at every step from his mouth, and his skin is reeking with sweat. Before he has reached the smallest bundle of hay, his strength leaves him. He feels exhaustion begin to creep over him, and he retires to the forest. The king goes out hunting every day. One of his dogs carries food into the hayfield, which has most unaccountably been neglected by the haymakers for 3 days. The king, following the dogs, discovers the fallow damsel not exactly in the straw, but up to her neck in the hay. She's carried, hay and all, to the palace, where she becomes his wife, making only one stipulation before becoming his bride, and that is that no beggar shall be permitted to enter the palace. After some years, a beggar does get in, the beggar being, of course, none other than her werewolf father. He steals upstairs, enters the nursery, cuts the throats of the 2 children born by the queen to her lord, and lays the knife under her pillow. In the morning, the king, supposing his wife to be the murderess, drives her from home with the dead princes hung around her neck. Damn! A hermit comes to the rescue and restores the babies to life. The king finds out his mistake and is reunited to the lady of the hay, and the werewolf is cast off a high cliff into the sea, and that is the end of him. The king, the queen, and the princes live happily, and may be living yet, for no notice of their death has appeared in the newspaper.
Oosh. They're still alive.
Well, I mean,
Interesting.
This is 1865, so it's possible.
I mean, have you read a newspaper account of their death?
You know what? I haven't.
I have not.
Not reading Slovakian newspapers, I wouldn't know, but I'm sure we could get. I mean, isn't that where like Slovakia? That's like what, like Lower Slabovia,
south
or something?
of Poland, north of Hungary.
Is that Lower Slabovia, Upper Slabovia? Is that Central Slabovia? No, I don't.
What's Slabovia?
I don't know.
Is this a meme I'm not getting?
Yeah, it's a meme you're not getting. Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. It's one of those things that nobody. Nope. It don't matter. So.
None of this matters.
None of this matters. All we know is that werewolves are mysterious. When you turn into one, you wake up naked, and you can get killed with silver bullets.
You like to eat people and rape.
There's a lot of rape. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of rape with the. No, there's a lot. I mean, like just scanning through these werewolf stories, almost every other or every third one involves rape.
Well, dude,
I think it's because the
werewolf taps into our animalistic side.
Yep, exactly.
I don't disagree.
All the stuff people want to do that's bestial that they can't do because they're men, they get to go for it when they're wolves.
Interesting.
All right.
Yeah, there's about 30 or 40 more of these. Like, I could go on. These are great. These Carl Linkner stories are great. The Brothers Grimm. There's the Kuhn and Schwarz stories. There's
Kuhn and Schwarz.
What time are we at?
We're getting towards the end of hour 2. About 45, 50 minutes. Yeah, about 50 something minutes. Yeah, we're getting there. This was good. This was fun. This is a fun topic. People have been asking us to do. They call them spook puppers. For our buddy
Black Dog.
For our friends Robert Charles and Charles Roberts, spook puppers. We did it. Okay.
Is that like the Black Dog stories or?
No, they just keep bugging us. Do spook puppers. Therefore werewolves. So.
Okay. Memes I'm not getting. Right. Okay.
Spook puppers, scary dogs, werewolves. Anyways. Yeah, I don't know. This was fun. I'm sure we could go on and on and on. I mean, like I said, I could read this is like this is one of those, when you click on a website and the scroll little bar deal that the little deal, like if it's like an inch or two wide, you're like, oh, it's like this page is this long. Well, this one is like got a little dot, and I can scroll for about 5 minutes before I get to the bottom of the page, and it's full of werewolf stories. So we could do this for a while. I could read werewolf stories for hours and not finish them all out. And this is just German werewolf stories. I mean, like there's got to be other ones other than the Slovakian one. I mean, there's got to be other werewolf stories from all over Europe. I mean, besides London and Paris, right?
Yep. Eastern Europe, they like them a lot there too. Or I'm not like, but they're popular in folklore and storytelling.
Yeah, I mean these are great, and I have to say werewolves don't sparkle. So werewolves are
That's Shark Boy.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't. Did they sparkle? I thought just the vampires sparkle. I thought it was just the gay vampires.
I think it's probably safe to assume that they all sparkle because it's all gay.
All right. Lupercalia. All right. The Feast of the Wolves. Sacrifices of goats and a dog. Interesting.
Oh.
Dude, I think, Johnny, you're going way into these stories. I have to ask you another kin now. Do you think you're a wolf?
No.
Oosh.
On all levels except physical?
No.
All right, Johnny. Have you opened a DeviantArt account? Be honest.
No, I'm not. A, no. B, no. And C, shut the fuck up, Brad.
Hey, something I forgot about real quick. The Lupercalia that you're talking about, how Brad mentioned that the werewolf legend is very much a play on our own bestial desires. The Lupercalia is actually it's a fertility festival. The priests would dress up like wild, wolfmen, and they'd run around whipping women in the womb with bundles of sticks.
They would, to encourage them. The goat skin. Yeah, they would clad themselves in goat skins and whip women who wished to conceive. Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
And when was this? When was this? February 15th. Yeah, but February 15th. Yeah,
February.
Right after Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm.
No, it's Valentine's Day is the origin of it.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Well, I mean, like Valentine's Day comes from the saint and everything, but the actual, the love holiday,
right.
It's heavily believed that it's a descendant of Lupercalia, the fertility festival.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yep.
It's a feasting celebration and a fertility celebration.
Wolves are all about eating and fucking. Yeah,
that's right. Eating. They're like wolves are like the sharks of the land. They just eat and what they say about sharks. They just eat and make baby sharks. Wolves just eat and make baby wolves.
They eat, swim, and make little sharks.
That's right. We're gonna need a bigger boat. All right. Anyways,
I love that movie.
That's such a great movie. All right.
You ever tried chumming some of this shit? I love that scene. His face after it comes out of the water. Oh shit!
Yeah, it's just that's a great movie. Even as cheesy as the monster is, it's such a great movie. It really is. All right,
it made generations of people afraid of the water.
It made me afraid of the water for about 16 years, dude. I wouldn't go in the ocean over like anything deeper than my knees. Not even kidding.
I still fuck that.
Yeah, if I can't see the bottom, I ain't getting in. Nope.
Hell
There's sharks down there. All right, we caught sharks like big sharks off of where we used to go swimming. So, yeah, not doing that.
Like Bodega Bay.
No, this is in New England, like New Jersey, Montauk. You know.
Oh,
like,
okay. Yeah. North Bay, California is terrible for great whites.
Oh God! Oh, did you see the pictures of like Santa Cruz last summer? There was a shot off the Santa Cruz pier
between like Catalina.
There was a shot off the pier in Santa Cruz where there was 300 and something, like 312, 315 great whites visible from the pier. 300 great whites. Yeah. Because
call the Paranormies.
That's not Paranormies. You call a shark hunter and a dude with a big rifle. Like that's not spook. No, that's legit. Those are sharks. You don't need us. You need a bigger boat is what you need. That's not paranormal at all. A ghost shark. A ghost shark.
Related. Oh, ghost sharks. Is it like? Oh, that'd be terrible.
Right? Could you imagine? It'd be like a flying. Yeah. Well, that's why I always say if sharks could fly, there wouldn't be people.
No, that would be kind of cool though. Flying sharks.
Yeah, but we wouldn't be here to you know, like, well, we invented guns. Yeah, we wouldn't have gotten that far in evolution. So.
No. How did we end up talking about?
Something about. Jaws. Yeah, that's how we got there. All right. Well, let's wrap this one up. This was a good one. This was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back next week with some more spooky, scary, fun, conspiratorial. Who knows what we're gonna do next week? I don't even know yet. We have a schedule of shows that you, Goyam, have asked us to do, and so far, the only one we got into was episode 1 with the Building 7 on 9/11. So we still have a long list of things to go this season. So, you guys got anything? All right. You guys got anything you want to say in closing? Adam, Brad?
No, this has been a good one.
All right.
I wish the Werewolf Women of the SS was actually made into a movie.
I love that song, and that would have been a great movie. Rob Zombie failed us by not making it.
Yeah.
Rob Zombie. What is his real name?
Rob Zombie, dude.
Yeah, he changed it. Like,
I wonder if he's not
Robert.
I wonder if he's not ethnic of a certain sort. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, all right.
Oh no, he's New England white trash, dude.
Is he? All right.
He's proud. Right. Yeah, he's proud of that too.
He's from Haverhill.
Oh, okay.
Robert Cummings.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Well, right on, fellas. Well, Zev, thanks for coming on again, buddy. Always a pleasure.
Holy fuck, he's in his 50s now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's older than me. Yeah. It happens.
I would hope so.
All right, guys. Brad, you got anything you want to add in closing besides that Rob Zombie's old?
Tonight's creepypasta is called Pale Luna.
Pale Luna. All right. Well, for the rightstuff.biz, I am Johnny Monoxide. This has been the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. We will talk to you guys later.
Gayer than hell.
In the last decade and a half, it's become infinitely easier to obtain exactly what you are looking for by a way of a couple of keystrokes. The internet has made it all too simple to use a computer to change reality. An abundance of information is merely a search engine away, to the point where it's hard to imagine life as any different. Yet, a generation ago, when the words streaming and torrent were meaningless save for conversations about water, People met face-to-face to conduct software swap parties, trading games and applications on Sharpie-labeled 5 1/4-inch floppy disks. Of course, most of the time the meets were a way for frugal, community-minded individuals to trade popular games like King's Quest and Maniac Mansion amongst themselves. However, a few early programming talents designed their own computer games to share amongst their circle of acquaintances, who would in turn pass it on, until, if fun enough and well-designed enough, an independently developed game had its place in the collection of aficionados all across the country. Think of it as a 1980s equivalent of a viral video. Pale Luna, on the other hand, was never circulated outside the San Francisco Bay Area. All known copies have long been disposed of. All computers that ever ran the game now deteriorates, buried under layers of filth and polyester. This fact is attributed to a number of rather abstruse design choices made by its programmer. Pale Luna was a text-based adventure game in the vein of Zork and the Lurking Horror. At a time when said genre was swiftly going out of fashion. Upon booting up the program, the player was presented with a screen almost completely blank, except for the text. You are in a dark room. Moonlight shines through the window. There is gold in the corner, along with a shovel and a rope. The door is to the east. Command. So began the game that one writer for a long out-of-print magazine decried as enigmatic, nonsensical, and completely unplayable. As the only commands that the game would accept were pick up gold, pick up shovel, pick up rope, open door, and go east. The player was soon presented with the following: reap your reward. Pale Luna smiles at you. You are in a forest. There are paths to the north, west, and east. Command. What quickly infuriated the few who played the game was the confusing and buggy nature of the second screen onward. Only one of the directional decisions would be the correct one. For example, on this occasion, a command to go in the direction other than north would lead to the system freezing, requiring the operator to hard reboot the entire computer. Further, any subsequent screens seemed to merely repeat the above text, with the difference being only the directions available. Worse still, the standard text adventure commands appeared to be useless. The only accepted non-movement related prompts were to use gold, which caused the game to display the message, not here, use shovel, which brought up, not now, and use rope, which prompted the text, you already used this. Most who played the game progressed a couple of screens into it before becoming fed up by having to constantly reboot and tossing the disc in disgust, writing off the experience as a shoddily programmed farce. However, there's one thing about the world of computers that remains true. No matter the era, some people who have way too much time on their hands. A young man by the name of Michael Nevins decided to see if there was more to Pale Luna than what met the eye. 5 hours and 33 screens worth of trial and error and unplugged computer cords later, he managed to make the game display the text. The text of the new area read, Pale Luna smiles wide. There are no paths. Pale Luna smiles wide. The ground is soft. Pale Luna smiles wide. Here. Command. It was still another hour before Nevin stumbled upon the proper combination of phrases to make the game progress any further. Dig hole, drop gold, then fill hole. This caused the screen to display, "Congratulations, 40.24248 minus 121.4434, upon which the game ceased to accept commands, requiring the user to reboot one last time. After some deliberation, Nevins came to the conclusion that the numbers referred to lines of latitude and longitude. The coordinates lead to a point in the sprawling forest that dominated the nearby Lassen Volcanic Park. As he possessed much more free time than sense, Nevins vowed to see Pale Luna through to its ending. The next day, armed with a map, a compass, and a shovel, he navigated the park's trails, noting with amusement how each turn he made corresponded roughly to those that he took in the game. Though he initially regretted bringing the cumbersome digging tool on a mere hunch, the past similarity all but confirmed his suspicion that the journey would end with him face to face with an eccentric's treasure. Out of breath after a tricky struggle to the coordinates, he was pleasantly surprised by a literal stumble upon a patch of uneven dirt. Shoveling as excitedly as he was, it would be an understatement to say that he was taken aback when his heavy strokes unearthed the badly decomposing head of a blonde little girl. Nevins promptly reported the situation to the authorities. The girl was identified as Karen Paulson, age 11, reported missing to the San Diego police about a year and a half prior. Efforts were made to track down the programmer of Pale Luna, but the nearly anonymous legal gray area in which the software swapping community operated inescapably led to many a dead end. Collectors have been known to offer upward of 6 figures for an authentic copy of Pale Luna. The rest of Karen's body was never found.